hello everybody, and hello Marcel. Welcome to our number 4 of the brand new and mega exciting Matthias Meets format.
Hello, Matthias.
How are you and how is your business? I learned that you actually turned some of your office space into logistics space due to the great demand. So how are you currently?
Well, first of all, thanks for being here. Thanks for being invited. I'm fine. I'm still healthy, luckily. And one of the rare occasions where I'm at the office today, because many of our employees, of course, work in the home office. And that's why we indeed turned some of our office spaces into stock room, warehousing, and having some pallets in every room and boxes. And just making sure that in this phase of the year, our clients can inbound as many goods as possible.
Cool. We are working together for years now. I don't know how this sounds, but it's a matter of fact, yeah. And please correct me if I'm wrong, but you made your kind of transformation from being a trader into someone who kind of acts as a service provider for other traders. Can you maybe shortly introduce where you came from and where you're currently in? Just to bring everyone on the same page would be great.
Sure. Yeah, indeed. We work together for quite a long time. And unfortunately, you still look as young as ever. And I grew old during the last years. I think we met first time when we integrated Tradebyte when I still worked for Otto, which is indeed over, I think, 11 or 12 years ago. We tried to convert Otto.de, which was a pure retail model, into Otto Market or Otto integration model service. I think you spoke with Robert about this the other day. And so this is why we thought it would be a great idea to be in part of this business between the brands and the marketplaces. And to do this in the first place, indeed, we acted as a retailer. So we bought goods from brands and sold them on marketplaces. Otto was the first marketplace. We went online, then Zalando, then Amazon came up, then About You was founded. So this was like the stage. And we did this solely until, I think, mid of 2017. And then we figured out that it is really tough to grow, to scale without the liquidity to buy goods. So that's why we thought, how can we do it without buying goods? And we changed our business model from being a retailer to being a service partner. So this is why we just kind of rent out our running connections to marketplaces. You can call it maybe like platform as a service. So people can just jump in, put their goods in our value chain and onboard those goods to marketplaces. And that's basically what we do, running marketplace operations for brands and supporting marketplaces to grow faster. But also onboarding, let's say, smaller brands, which are not the Adidas and Puma of this world, but brands with a low revenue potential who are also very interesting in the long tail for the marketplaces.
Okay, super interesting. So we come back to that later on. I bet you have already watched Matthias Meets format, but I shortly have to tell for everyone else who doesn't or who didn't, I just have to introduce the 3 kind of major elements being, first of all, we are discussing a so-called antithesis, which is controversial. And then we have a speed lane, what we call kind of fitness check-up for you, pushing you to decide between, let's say, 2 terms, to decide left and right. And last but not least, in the end, we will have the big 3, where we both share our thoughts around, let's say, certain topics or challenges and go through it in a 3-2-1 priority kind of style. So let's start right away. Marcel, the antithesis for our conversation today is multi-channel D2C business is the very same like my e-com. So actually, if you ask me, it's rather a thesis from the 80s, but what is your perspective on that?
Yes, I think this is one of the most common misunderstandings when it comes to marketplace business, which is, I think, in the human nature that if some things change, you still think it's the same. So same, but it's same, but different. So of course, people think that when they know how to do e-commerce, it's the same than selling on different marketplaces. But just give you one example on how far away these business models are. If you run an own online shop, for example, your own e-commerce business, you possibly have a view on the customer. You're very customer-centric, so you really want to figure out how can you increase your customer value. In the marketplace business, you don't care, because you cannot control the customer value, because it's the customer of the marketplace, and he's challenging this. But as a marketplace partner or selling via marketplaces, you want to increase your margin on the sold product, because this is the only thing you can control, and this is how your business model works. And this is just a small change in what kind of KPI you're hunting, and it really changes the way on how to deal with the business. So I would just say, yes, you still sell goods on a marketplace or in an online shop to an end customer. It has to be fulfilled. So there are a couple of things which are the same. But the way how you run the business, how you should think about the business, is vastly different from your own online shop.
In case a brand enters newly the D2C segment, would you recommend to firstly go with a kind of multi-channel marketplace approach? Would you say go for your, let's say, for your own e-com first and do collect some learnings?
I would basically really quest if an online shop is something which you should pursue in the first place, because that's really tough to set up a new online shop, because it really takes the value chain much further than marketplace business does. Marketplace business ends when you put the products online, and then you have assortment management, which is quite familiar to many brands, which they even have in their B2B business. But to run an own online shop with all the costs included, with all the technology you need, that is actually a huge task. So I would basically turn it the way around. I would say, if you want to start digitalization, and if you face issues in your B2B business that the platforms push you to marketplace, do marketplace first. And if it really works out and you've done everything there, and you still have some money over and time left, go for your own online shop. But I would say that for brands today, to have an own online shop is not really necessary.
Okay, maybe one more would be, if you look at the kind of operational readiness of the vendor side or the brand side, of course, what is the difference? I mean, if you're already in your own e-com business, what is the step towards then the multi-channel marketplace approach? So what is the difference in operational readiness overall? Or maybe the major three of them?
Yeah, I think the changes or the challenges are in the back office processes. So because since the online shop optimization, funnel analysis, on-site marketing, and so on, since this is something which you cannot control, you really can focus on your back office processes. And this, of course, means how do you produce your content? How do you store your content? Is it structured in the correct way? How are my logistic chains? And of course, these are the same, but they are more tricky, because the online shop has one taxonomy on content. 10 marketplaces have 10 taxonomies on content, which you have to provide in a single way, because you don't want to run 10 marketplaces. You want to run one operation. When it comes to logistics, you have to fulfill orders from several marketplaces with several SLAs, with several demands when it comes to paperwork, boxes you have to send, cutoff times, lead times, whatever. So they are vastly different, and they really differ. So this is which really extends the complexity. To send a box to one customer from your online shop, that's actually quite harmless. That is what everyone can do. But to fulfill the needs for a couple of marketplaces, that is really tough. And it needs adjustment in order management. It needs adjustment in PIM system. It needs adjustment in accounting. It needs adjustment in the roles you need in your organization. And that is tricky. But you can build on something if you have an online shop, for sure. That is true. But I wouldn't just build it up to be ready for the marketplace. I would just only use it if I'm in this business anyway.
Okay, cool. Yeah, very interesting. So there's a lot more beyond the own e-com operations to deal then with marketplaces. Maybe we can have a discussion additionally later on that, because I'd like to bring in some more fitness now with the speed lane I prepared for you, and I was really thinking about the different terms. So the rules of this speed lane are: you have to decide between two terms. You may not say both, and you may not say neither.
Oh, I see.
You got it?
Yes.
Okay, we do a dry run. Coffee or tea? This is my
Coffee.
Did we once have tea? No. Okay, let's start. I think this is a similar one for you. Coke or water?
Water.
Okay. Networker or solo artist?
Networker.
Newspaper or tablet?
Newspaper.
Really? So kind of really paper newspaper?
Yes, I use the tablet to write. So I replaced my notebook, my writing notebook, with a tablet. So I always do this. But I think reading is on a newspaper gives you more time to think what you've read, and you're more focused on the topic. So that's why I don't read on tablets.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And are you a doer or a strategist?
Oh, strategist. It's very unfortunate for my colleagues, but more strategist.
So you don't deal around with the boxes lying around in the office space. It's the others.
I don't. No. This is strictly forbidden. I think it's in my working contract. Don't work. Just think.
Okay. Last but not least, a tricky one: hybrid or e-car?
I would say hybrid, if possible, because I'm still kind of reluctant on being stuck in the middle of nowhere because I ran out of electricity. So I think hybrid is something which, for the time being, is quite helpful. But I see the improvement in technology, so maybe next year I answer the question differently.
Okay, I hope so too, because I love e-cars. Now we are kind of, really fit and can a little bit turn into the real questions.
Yes.
I think you, as you mentioned, you started your career with Otto a long time ago, and also helped to build up the marketplace and basically also helping Otto a bit around this digitalization in general. When you look at the current kind of transformation challenges being there right now and the ones being there maybe 15 years ago, what do you see in terms of differences or perceptions or also challenges which might have been changed along the time?
Mm. Well, first of all, I think a lot of things are still the same. So, and I think this is quite sad. I mean, we are in this platform industry now for 10, 15 years, and we still see that there are obstacles which have been solved in many other industries in a different way and much quicker. So we still see that there are huge challenges. And the main challenge is, from my point of view, that there are hardly any pure marketplaces out there because, of course, this is very expensive. So what's going to happen? You have a retail business, and then you transform a retail business into a marketplace, which means you have to deal with retail systems, which are not laid out for marketplace business or third-party participation. So this is something which we still see as a core issue on the marketplace side. And this somehow didn't really change. So this is still an obstacle. I mean, we've seen in the last years when the brick and mortar stores became online retailers and marketplaces like Gertz, when you had Martin on this format as well. When you think about Kaufhof, Peek and Kloppenburg in Germany, Sportcheck, and so on. So these are stationary retailers which turned their business model into marketplaces. It works fine, but this is still like the environment we're working on. And this, for some reason, didn't change. Or it's still very complicated. With the on the supplier side, on the brand side, we see a huge difference. And just give you one example. When we started the business in 2012, we went to the Fashion Week in Berlin, and we actually, because we were still retailers, we were trying to convince brands to sell us their goods so we can sell them on marketplaces. And we had funny answers. We had like, we don't believe in e-commerce. We don't do e-commerce. We have our own online shop. We don't need platforms. Platforms are evil, and so on. So really, really funny answers. And this tremendously changed in the last year. So right now, brands are coming to us saying, look, we really need a marketplace solution right now because we are out of options. And this is also a great topic, by the way, how the retail world changed, how brands are pushed into a marketplace business within years. And this is a really quick change in the perception. How brands see e-commerce. It was for a long time, and I'll say maybe until 2015 to 16. This was a pain, this was bad, this was evil, it was very bad for the retailers. And for some reason, the threshold was surpassed, that they say, now we have to act. What on earth can we do? Because they had no clue how to do an e-commerce online shop, and they weren't bought enough from the platform side, so they had to go on marketplaces. And this is what changed within 1 or 2 years. And this was really dramatic.
And when you look at the different kind of market developments, which of them, are the ones who tackled that kind of transformation the most?
I think there are a couple of reasons, and I basically think there are 3 reasons. First reason is that brick and mortar stores, and as you know, we are more or less a home in the fashion industry, and fashion is quite a good example because it's one of the assortments which drive change in e-commerce because it was there first. So whatever happens kind of first with fashion. So the number of doors, as we say in the fashion, declined. So there were just fewer brick and mortar stores, which are clients from the brands. This was one thing. So they had a decline in revenue. And in e-commerce, you had an oligopoly, which was formed by Zalando, by Amazon, Otto, About You, and so on. So you had a huge concentration of power, which made the brands more dependent on these players. And then the third effect is that these players say, we want to grow with you, but via marketplace because we don't want to take the risk. So there was a risk transformation from the retailer to the brand. And all these 3 effects, which push the brand into one direction, happens within a couple of years, maybe 1 or 2. So this is the kind of push on each factor. And I think these 3 reasons are the main reasons why marketplace becomes such a great issue for most of the brands. And then, of course, other assortments are affected, like living, for example, beauty, which are now coming up. So, I would say that this was the main change.
Yeah, I agree, definitely. I mean, if you look at the brands which are with you currently, someone could say that in this digital times, it should be like you build up the know-how on your own, and you just also own the skills around digital merchandising, how to deal with the different kind of channels. I think for some of the brands, it's also pretty much, looking at the future, something to have in-house in a way. And by using your kind of platform as a service, as you mentioned, of course, they outsource something what could be of strategic interest for the future. So if a brand comes up with this kind of argument, what is your answer?
Totally wrong. No, of course not. Of course, this is a very, very valid argument. And when brands ask me what to do, I said one of the main reasons why they should do it for themselves is for the strategic impact this business might have for their own brand. And there's nothing to say against it. What I say is that this comes at a huge cost. It comes at the cost of time. So to build all this up internally, to connect to all these marketplaces is a time-consuming business. It takes resources, it takes know-how, it takes internal IT, which is actually there. Because, for example, if you want to connect to Tradebyte, there must be something on the other side you can connect to. You need internal processes and so on. So it really takes time, and you have to invest in this. And the brands we are speaking about, or partners we are speaking about, they do not have money on the side to invest. I mean, we have a little setup fee. You will know on your own business what people are bargaining about with really low numbers, and we're speaking about hundreds of euros, maybe 1,000 or 2,000 euros. It is totally out of range for these brands to say, okay, I build it up on my own. So my pitch is, if you have in the 3 or 4 years of time, you think you should do it on your own because you learned enough and you build up a business so you can even see how it works and you can see the potential. You're still free to go on your own, but start now. And to start now and start quickly, aggregators like us are a very convenient solution. I would still say that of course, it's necessary to have specific roles still with the brand. And as you said, assortment management or retail media knowledge to understand how that works. This is just something which should be on the brand side. And we basically focus on the operational hassle where you really don't, want to have your fingers in. Call with the platforms, asking why the accounting is wrong, why the articles aren't there. Speaking with DHL, why on earth the lorry didn't come at 4. these kind of topics. This is something which we take over for the brand and give them opportunity to be up and running. But all the topics like knowledge about it, this should still be at the brand's ownership.
I mean, we also have, across our customer base, we also have this kind of, let's say, rather digital natives, also building their business model actually dedicated to digital sales channels in a pretty different way, not too much as a kind of seasonal switch thing. It's more or less really demand-driven. So what is your advice to your also maybe existing brands being connected in terms of changing their business model overall? So not only the, let's say, technical part and doing the right, assortment allocation, but on top of it, in terms of changing the strategy around maybe also assortment, target groups, maybe also to try out assortment ranges, but they, didn't dare in this kind of traditional wholesale approach, and so on. So, is there also a kind of advice in terms of how should they adapt to the new opportunities?
There is. I admit that this is kind of extended level of advice to really change their own business model. And this is nothing which you possibly do in the first 1 or 2 years. But I would indeed agree. The business model changes dramatically. Just give you one example when it comes to the selection of the assortment. Let's say you're a designer and you do your brand work and you're really good at it. So you have to be fresh. You have to adapt to the fashion outside, and you come up with new collections maybe every 2 or 3 months because you know that this old seasonal thinking is over. And then as a marketplace advisor, I would say that this is total rubbish because you have to produce stable products which are able to generate some kind of traffic on the marketplaces, maybe some reviews, also give them time to rank or to raise in the ranking. So as a marketplace guy in the company, I would say I need stable, never out of stock assortment, which is attractive, which are top sellers and push the top sellers. And as a designer, you would say, oh my God, is this man crazy? He has no fucking clue how, sorry for the language, he has no idea how this works with the fashion industry. This is not how we operate, but this is something how this new world works. And you have to adapt into this new way of thinking. So this is definitely something which we tell people, but we also tell them is like, give yourself time, 2 or 3 years, and I know this is a long time, to really understand the business. We had one client the other night, and we were speaking about profitability of his business. And he said, well, the logistic costs are so high. And then if you go through his assortment on different channels in different countries, you will possibly come up with a solution like that this kind of assortment is not working in, let's say, Belgium, because the high return rate in Belgium, the logistic costs are high, so just take it off. So there's a lot of management needed to have a profitable business out there. And of course, the assortment as such and how should you really change the assortment is vital. And this also, if I may add, is one more thing. It's not multi-channel, it's multi-business model. To work on, to sell on marketplace is a much different business model than just selling stuff which you already have, maybe to a store in northern Germany or to another store in southern Germany. There are different rules. We have clients who have very big online shops and they tell us, your best sellers are our party poopers. They don't work here, but they're great on any other of the marketplaces where they are. And I think this is an amazing insight that things really differ on the way how you sell them on marketplaces, on which marketplaces, which countries. And this is something what brands have to learn.
Did you also, Marcel, collect some learnings from the times where you acted as a retailer and also going through the tough times of liquidity and whatever challenges? So did you also collect some learnings which you are now able to transform into this, let's say, new value proposition, being a service provider, or, I mean, I would say rather a trading partner? So is there anything what you...
Yeah, they're painful learnings. They would last for another section of Matthias Meets. I think one of the core issues we want to share is have a look at the profitability of your business. And the two main drivers of the profitability of the business is the recommended retail price or the sales price and the return quota, because the combination of these two define the percentage of the logistic costs. or at least, I mean, of course, the higher the return rate, the higher you have nominal logistic costs as well. But for many partners now, the calculation changes. So they really have to calculate from the net revenue how it goes down. And then you have normally fixed quotas on commission for us, for the platform, for you guys, and of course for their cost of goods sold. And then you have the logistics, and they are a nominal price. But the amount and the weight of the logistic cost is driven by your recommended retail price and the return quotas. So if you sell fashion for 30, 40 euros, don't do it. Doesn't work. If we speak with partners in the lingerie department or stockings or socks, we always tell them build bundles. Get your prices up because this doesn't work. And this is something we paid highly for. This was very, very expensive learning. We also tried some assortments, even with 50, 60 euro in fashion. Didn't work. And one of the reasons is that, and indeed, the economics in the industry changed. When we started, there was an average return quota of 50%, and platform commission was around 17, 18%. Now, and over the upcoming years, maybe within 5-6 years, return quota, thanks to Zalando, changed to 60%, even above. And the commission of the platforms raised another 4 or 5%. And this means as a retailer to sell marketplaces became highly unprofitable. And that was one of the reasons why we stopped it.
Yeah. I mean, I think one problem with the, let's say, margins from a manufacturer to the end consumer is more or less that also a part of the margin then goes for DHL or for the others in a multiple way. If you have a kind of multiple thing, how do you look at this different kind of fulfillment opportunities being provided by the marketplaces, FBA, and all the other kind of opportunities? Also, the Zalando fulfillment, for example.
I think this is a mixed view because the huge advantage of solutions like ZFS or FBAs, that especially for the sales on their own channels, they are so much cheaper, especially when it comes to foreign sales, that this is a huge opportunity and a business driver for brands to sell in foreign countries. So it's a huge driver. The problem as such is that to use it, you would have to split your stock. And this is like this is the 8th death sin of marketplace business, to split your stock. So you really have to come around this and figure out and distinguish between one stock, one solution, which is great for the marketplaces, especially when with you guys, you can really manage the stock over the platform. So that's great. On the other hand, it's very expensive. So it really depends. If Zalando, for example, plays a huge part in your marketplace business, I would definitely go for ZFS because it gives you the opportunity to handle lots of your volume out of one logistics solution. The other issue is why it's not that easy is that to manage these kind of solutions, if it's FBA or Zalando, is very tricky. So it's nothing which you do out of your hands or which someone can do. You have to have a very strict forecasting. The reporting is tough, so you really have to look into it. But I think, and that's why I think, for example, that Zalando has the opportunity to become like the core marketplace operations for more marketplace. And because of course it doesn't make sense to stock it with About You, Zalando, Otto, whoever is out there, because then you have 5-6 stocks. That doesn't work. But having one into your mix, I think that's great. And Zalando has a great opportunity in becoming a very valuable partner.
And how do you proceed normally in case a new brand is entering your heyconnect ecosystem? Is it kind of due to the fact that you have all the connections already running, that you just push through the brand through any channel, or do you have any selection in place in order to find out what is matching best also with the brand's assortment?
Well, from an operational point of view, it's indeed rather simple. As I do the sales, I always say it's very simple, of course, but indeed the truth is it's of course not that simple. But since we do not have to connect to marketplaces for each brand, it's more or less indeed a brand permission, which we need for most marketplaces. Many marketplaces will still demand a brand permission. And the moment we have it, we onboard the brand with a kind of golden record regarding content, so that they can be used for many marketplaces. And then we can really push and first of all map the content, of course, but then we can push it to the marketplaces. So that's actually quite simple. We normally say if a brand really plays along, we have like 4 to 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks, and from signing the contract to be live. So that's actually quite quick. When the question is, do you select products and articles? We really do not recommend this in the first place. So we really say, with your assortment, be as live on as many marketplaces as possible, and then mass first, shaping later, as bodybuilders would say. And this is our strategy as well. So gather learnings. Of course, don't do stupid stuff like selling 30 euro products into overseas. Of course, that's stupid. But apart from this, let's have one pricing policy in all the marketplaces. Just learn. And if you've learned, then you can really say, okay, how do you want to place retail media on specific platforms, which is upcoming? Are there certain rules for assortments, which you should do, as we just spoke about earlier? But in general, be live with as many products on as many marketplaces as possible.
Okay, cool. Marcel. Super interesting. So last but not least, we are entering the big three together, Marcel.
Yeah.
I hope you are well prepared for the.
I'm prepared. Let's see how well.
For the topic, which is today, we have the topic of the D2C challenges most underestimated. So if a brand is entering the D2C business, everything is easy in the first row. I do have data, I do have whatever. And what are the top three for you? Maybe you start with the number 3 in the first row on your side when it comes to the underestimation.
I think my top 3 is underestimating the fulfillment SLAs from platforms. So people think we have a logistics center, we can do it, we are awesome. And then they figure out they're not. And they are kicked out of Zalando and other marketplaces quite quickly because they don't fulfill, and they are strict. And they are strict for a very good reason, because it's all about fulfilling customer needs and customer expectations. And it is tough. And I hear for a lot of times that our customer says, can we use our logistics? We have a B2B logistic. Okay, no, don't. But so this would be my third place.
Okay, very interesting. So I have to change mine and I have to just take a new one because I had SLA matching as SLA matching as the number 3. But I would go with maybe an alternative being complexity in general, which is pretty much underestimated. So as I just mentioned, I think in the end, at least from a C-level perspective, it's all about, I do have IT, I do have maybe also my e-com team, and I do have data, of course, I can share with you, I can link it over, do you have interfaces, I can provide everything. And then it comes to a certain kind of complexity check. And this, in our world, also due to the different requirements you mentioned, and also different kind of, how things are matching together in the end, or have to be linked together in the end. It's a really great complexity, in many cases, really underestimated.
Yeah, I would agree. And I have to check my number 1 now.
Yeah, actually, we should share beforehand, but I like the surprise in the game.
Yeah.
So the second
on
your...
other for too long. That's the reason.
Yeah, the second on your list?
Second on my list is P&L structure and how to optimize it. So how profitable is my business with the calculations we just had before. I'm sometimes surprised how few knowledge, or what a kind of few knowledge brands have about the profitability of the business and how it works and how it should be calculated. So we have this for every our customers, and I know it's a kind of consulting as well, but we see it's crucial in the sales process to really go through the P&L for a brand on the marketplace perspective. What does it mean for you, and what are the value drivers? Especially, and just one simple example: how many items are in one box? What do you think? Because it really drives logistics. You can halve the logistic cost if you double the items in the box. Very simple. And this is something which we really have to tell brands how it works. We see a lot of brands who come to us after half a year and say, this is so unprofitable. And we say, yeah, we had the calculations before, and we agreed on a retail price, and you are now 30% short of the price. This comes with the cost. And that's what I think is the second crucial and underestimated topic.
Yeah, I agree. So my number two would be, in general, digital merchandising, which is in a way underestimated, or especially with a view at, let's say, multiple channels to being managed in the end.
Oh, yes.
Because there's no one procedure or no, let's say, one instrument, one thing to go. To be really successful on specific marketplaces, it also needs this kind of marketplace-related know-how. And this is what we call digital merchandising, because I fully have to understand Zalando, how it works. I fully have to understand how About You works, Amazon, and also to optimize rankings, to everything what you mentioned, also in terms of, let's say, creating trust of articles, driving them to kind of different performance levels, is on each and every channel a completely different story. And so this is what we call, let's say, multi-channel digital merchandising, which is also fully underestimated, because maybe they used to, come from the e-com management, which is the own online shop, and it's pretty kind of isolated in terms of I do have my conversion, I have my funnel, through the basket, but when it comes to multi-channel, of course, there's a completely different logic behind.
If I can ask back one question, I mean, your clients are the big ones, can do it on themselves. What is your experience with your partners? How do they tackle this these days? Do they form specific roles in their organization? Is this something which you see coming up in the last years? Is this still something people don't do?
No, I think there's a lot of interest for everyone who kind of put this as a kind of strategic core element. And then they are looking out actually for different kind of opportunities. So there's a lot of demand for additional services on our end, also to drive performance, to understand channels in a different way. Also with the view, for example, on everything around marketing and promotions on top of the, let's say, commerce level, to create something which makes a difference, where I also can kind of proactively steer the assortment, not only, let's say, activating articles with a certain stock and price, but really having influence. So in this area, it's fully around everyone who's kind of understands this as a kind of core element of the strategy. They either build up teams for it, or they reach out for service partners or for other opportunities to make that happen. So it's a pretty, let's say, serious thing for now. And it was not 5 years ago or 3 years ago.
It is. I can remember when people told me how they can support their sales, and I always kept saying, bring them online. That's basically the only thing you can really do right now, at least the most crucial thing. And I'm glad it keeps changing because it really drives the industry.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So your number one then is complexity, or?
It kind of, you could translate like this. I'd say keep your business up and running, because I think this is, and we face it when we tell our customers what we cost, and they say, "Oh, well, that's really much. That's really much." And what do you do for this? And when you tell them you keep your business up and running, they say, "Oh, come on, this cannot be that hard." To bring products online and make sure that you get the orders in and fulfill and send a kind of tracking code back to the platform. And sometimes people say, like, I buy on Amazon too. I know how easy it is. And this is where you see that people there's no reason to be mad at them because they haven't experienced it yet. That's why they come to us. But it's even for us, it's tough to explain them how really hard it is to keep your business up and running, especially if you have more and more marketplaces. And this is one of my core theories, which I keep spreading the word, and this is what I have to do right now. Brands have to think marketplace from the end. They really have to think about their setup in 5 or 6 years. Are they able to sell in many countries, on many marketplaces? And that really drives complexity quite a lot. And this is what they really have to take care about and figure out how to deal with it, because it's highly underestimated. But it's basically, you said it much easier and nicer with shorter words.
but I like your version as well, Marcel. So my number one is actually, I mean, this is an issue for a lot of let's say digital industries, or the ones popping up, is get the right people. Yeah, basically I mean, you have to find them, you have to, let's say, hire them, you have to get them productive, and then you have to build up all this kind of different skills and learnings. And this is, I mean, looking at their own kind of, let's say, e-com again, maybe this is something to solve. But when it comes to then managing complexity, starting with the data modeling until, let's say, also what you just mentioned in terms of report analysis and everything else there. So there's so many bits and pieces where you really need good people, and they are pretty limited in terms of the market. So you wouldn't find them too easily. And so this is one of the also core elements of the most underestimated things. Yeah.
Lovely choice. And I think indeed, I would say, and this is highly underestimated, that you just said it, because people think, everyone can do it. Everyone can map things in Tradebyte, and these are the same persons who make sure that DHL is coming. These are also the ones who can manage the content production and check the accounting. And of course, make an assortment management, and they're very fit in retail media. So if you think at the specific roles you need in this business, and I made it for a masterclass last year, and I thought, okay, how many roles do you have? So I went through our organization, added some, and came up with, I think, 12 or 13 roles. People try to stuff these roles within 1 or 2 persons, because this is the only amount of people they can afford. But I couldn't agree more. It's tough, and it's since the market is new, you don't have really experienced people doing it. So I think this will ease out in the next years, but right now it's an issue.
Yeah, I fully agree. Yeah, thank you, dear Marcel, for this really cool talk. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot, but I think we always enjoy talking to each other. I wish you all the best, and let's hope that all of your employees stay at home. Yeah, that you have enough space for the parcels and for the stock and everything being managed. To all of you watching, thank you for dialing in. I hope that you have enjoyed this conversation, and hopefully you received some insights from Marcel especially, normally missing in talks like this. And Matthias Meets goes into a Christmas break. See you in 2021 with new amazing guests, hopefully. And next week, the final talk of the year is held by Alex Otto, who's looking back into the demanding event year together with Verena and Christiane from K5. So stay tuned. Have a wonderful rest of the year. Also to you, Marcel. Thank you so much, and goodbye.
Goodbye. Stay healthy, everyone. Bye-bye.